people to take care of those who are suffering, and there are people who like to mock those people who are taking care of those who are suffering. So who are those people? Who are those people who are taking care of the suffering? Muslims, for example, good Christians, for example, good Jewish people, people of God who believe in God. They are taking care of as many people as possible who are suffering. These are the agents of God. On the other hand, we have a bunch of God rejectors who mock those people who are helping the suffering.
Hang on.
So people who believe in God are actually helping the suffering.
So you believe this to be a true fact of life? The only people who are helping people who are suffering are believers in God.
Did I make that statement?
You seem to be suggesting it.
No, don't read your mind into my words. I said most people who are of religion, people who follow God, most of them are generous people. They are law-abiding people. They do a lot of acts of kindness. They are generous. They give charity, and they take care of people because they believe in God. They believe in the concept of charity, right? So most of the orphans in the world, who are they being taken care of? By the people of God, Catholics, Muslims, Jewish people, right? So when you look at people who do not believe in God, generally speaking, I'm not saying no. Did I say all? No. Generally speaking, they are very busy in their own lives. They don't. I mean, why should they? Tell me why should they? They don't believe in God. They don't believe in the hereafter. They don't believe in the reward, recompense. Why should they move? Why should they do anything?
People who are
God doesn't exist.
Who
cares?
People who take care of the sick are doing it for their own selfish desire to get compensated in the afterlife. So they're basically selfish.
No, they're not selfish.
They're just buying credit.
There is a balance. There's a balance between believing in God and acting upon His teachings, and there's a balance between that concept and
reward and
expecting reward in return. Okay, so God tells us, you do it because I am telling you to do it, but at the same time you'll get this reward.
Okay,
simple. So it's a reward. It's like a child. You tell a child, you do this, you'll get that. Okay, if you behave yourself today, you'll get a chocolate, or we'll buy you a cake or an ice cream.
But I like to teach my children to be kind for the sake of being kind, not because they get rewarded.
That's a very noble teaching. But if your children grow up to be non-believers in God, and when they think about it, when it comes down to it, God doesn't exist, why do I have to do anything? I'm just a biological animal, and I'm just a collection of molecules. I don't need to do anything. I just live my life. I don't need to.
Don't you think the religious belief?
Let me very quick. Why I belief in God leads to charitable acts and more generosity than not.
I agree with you.
Yeah. You agree with me?
No, I agree with you. I also think religiousness leads to separation, violence, hatred, racism. You know, I'm from the Jewish tradition, right? And I see a lot of my fellow Jews, looking down on people who are not Jewish, feeling superior to them, and then some of them are violent and they fight people because they feel enmity towards them. They look in their scriptures and they see a God who expresses anger through violence in the Bible. I see the same thing with Islam, where the Quran has expressions of the divine using violence to enforce faith. Right, and so whilst I agree with you that there is a lot more charity in the believers, there's also a lot more coercion, a lot less freedom, a lot of anger, a lot of hatred also comes out of religion.
All the things you have mentioned, you have made valid points. You made a very reasonable point that there are religious people who have done those things, but it has more to do with people than the religion itself. No religion, including Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, teach violence against innocent people or oppression. Okay, which one?
So
which religion teaches that?
Well, if you take Judaism, because that's the religion I grew up. I'm an Orthodox Jew, right? And I read the Torah every week, the Hebrew Bible. Yes, the Hebrew Bible teaches that the Jewish notion, the Hebraic notion of the divine, right, is
exclusive.
Is violently angry. Forget about exclusivity. It's violently angry. So So prohibition, even the Sabbath, which is just a day of rest, right? If you breach the Sabbath, it's punishable by capital punishment.
that's
Stoning
between
to death.
That's between God and the Jewish people.
No, the Jewish people are supposed to stone their fellow Jewish people if
Right.
they break the Sabbath. It says
Right.
you shall stone them to death. Now,
Okay.
Jews don't generally stone people to death anymore.
Yes.
But the depiction of the punishment is stoning by death.
Okay.
And it comes from the divine.
Okay.
So the divine is depicted as a violent, thuggish, angry, very unforgiving, slightly crazed being, right?
While
That's
what,
Judaism.
while
So
what
I
you
would
say
have-
may be true, but that cannot represent all Jewish people and their understanding of God, because Jews also believe that God is merciful, He is generous, He is
I
violent.
understand. There's a conflict there.
Okay, wait. That goes for any philosophy of law. What you just mentioned there, a threat of violence from authority, goes
Fine, but for breaking the Sabbath?
No.
Or for for blaspheming?
Yeah. Look,
Like, I understand if someone murders someone,
Yeah.
we should use violence to prevent them murdering another person.
Let me
them in
quickly
prison.
explain. Let me
But
quickly
if
explain.
I don't believe in what you believe, so good to your problem.
Okay.
Why should I?
Okay.
Why should I hurt them?
Do you believe people walking around topless women, they should be
Yes.
punished?
No.
But they get punished in this law.
Well, they shouldn't be.
Well,
Good luck to them.
I can ask the same
I'd
question
like
now.
to see more of
Are
them,
you
to be
being
honest.
punished for being topless? You just take your T-shirt off and you're going to be punished in Britain?
Yeah, I think you should
Yeah,
be.
well, that's the law.
I know.
That's the law.
It's a bad law.
Societies.
And there are societies where you are allowed to walk around naked.
Yes, I know.
That's fine.
But
In
then,
Africa,
but then,
they walk around topless, it's perfectly fine.
no, not because of the law. Because that's the culture, and
Fine.
the law is not applied there. In African
It's a bad
societies,
law here. I think we should have the African law.
no. Do you have an example of any good law in human history? Any
There
perfect
are
law?
loads of fantastic laws, but
For
they're not
example?
religious laws.
For example,
I think if you
Ali, give me an example of a legal
kill
system.
someone, you rape someone, you steal from someone, then you have a legal system that involves violence if they don't, keep the law.
Well,
of course.
that's religious
fine.
law. That's Islamic law.
No, but I understand. But
You kill
Islamic-
someone, you
but
rape
why-
someone, you
but-
steal from
But what
someone,
happens if
you
you
get punished.
blaspheme in Islamic law?
Right, that's a very good question now. Now, is the concept of blasphemy peculiar with Islam?
No, I'm talking. It's also in Judaism in the Torah.
No, it is
It's problematic across the gamut for me.
no,
I don't care.
no.
I mean, it's
Every human society
What-
believes in it.
Atheistic society kills
Yes,
blasphemers?
yes,
Which one? Where?
yes.
Where?
Okay.
Which law?
First of
in
all-
this country, there's no blasphemy.
Let me
law.
explain.
I can believe anything
Sorry,
I
let me
like.
explain. Let me explain. Let's say we have an atheistic society today. Atheists come to power
Right.
by whatever conception they have of atheism
Right.
in Britain,
Yes.
and they start to govern. The
Okay.
president or the prime minister is an atheist, the military is an atheist, the generals are atheists, the press is an atheist establishment,
Okay.
and then they have to now apply the law,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Will that society allow absolute freedom of speech? Very specific question and very specifically worded. Answer my question specifically. Will that atheistic society, an absolutely atheistic society,
No, there'll be exceptions. For example,
Thank you.
Hang on, I haven't finished.
These exceptions we call blasphemy law.
No, not for blasphemy, not because of belief.
Co-
The only thing you can't say in a society with free speech is harassment, where you're harming someone else deliberately, or where you're shouting there's a fire and people get trampled on and die.
How about
That
how
can
about
be
spreading
a-
hate against a particular group of people in an atheistic society? Would that be allowed? If someone wants to
What do
mock,
you mean spreading
if someone
hate?
wants to mock the Jewish people
They
in an
should be-
atheist,
they should be allowed to, in my opinion.
they should be.
Yes.
They should.
People
And if
mock
they're-
me as a Jew all the time, and I couldn't
It's
give
wrong.
a monkey.
It's wrong.
I
It's
don't
wrong.
think they should be allowed to.
You are
We
one
should
person.
Knock them back.
Let's talk to the Jewish community. They will tell you
Yeah.
that when you allow people to be mocked, or when you allow people to mock,
Yeah.
what follows is a genocide. Let me give you examples.
Yeah.
How do genocides happen? Every genocide, every massacre in human history
Yeah.
has dehumanization behind it.
I appreciate that. I agree with you
Okay,
100%.
how does dehumanization take place? By demonization. So when you
I agree with
demonize the people, you dehumanize them.
Okay.
And when you dehumanize them, you take the value away from them. And when the value has been taken away from them, then it is easy to kill them. Like what's happening to
100%.
Muslims today. Like what happened to the Jewish people in the 40s in Germany. Right, we're having a decent discussion here, sir. We're having a decent discussion here.
I 100% agree with you that dehumanization means genocide.
So blasphemy.
No, blasphemy.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Is about specifically about
the question.
Specifically about me.
The question
standing up in society and saying that I do not believe in God or a religion or your idea of religion or God. And that should be in Pakistan. You can get killed for that.
Okay, that's not true, by the way. First of all, I'm from Pakistan. You have a misconception. I live in Pakistan. Very often I go there. My parents are there. So no.
So if I go to Pakistan tomorrow and I stand up with a T-shirt and I say, I love humanity, but I don't believe that Allah exists. Yes. And I give out leaflets saying, I'd like to share my beliefs with you. Nothing will happen to me.
No. I'm telling you, people are doing that already in Pakistan.
Right.
People are already saying these things. Yes, if you insult the Prophet of Islam, if you insult God, if you insult Moses, if you insult Jesus, there are penalties. The law of Pakistan does not allow it. Likewise, in Britain, there are certain things you cannot say. Wait, like for example, if you criticize homosexuality, if you say homosexuality is wait. If you say homosexuality is X, Y, and Z, you will be taken
rubbish.
Okay, wait.
Rubbish.
Okay.
I'll say it right here.
No. I don't want you to say it. Not with me. Not with me. I don't condone this behavior. But anyway, if you criticize the Jewish people, it is illegal.
It
is anti-Semitism. No, that's a good law.
I
believe that's a good law.
I'm Jewish.
I defend that law. That's a good law.
If people want to spread hate against Jews or Muslims or any homosexuals,
they should be allowed to do it.
They should be allowed to do it in public, and we should.
Then you want the Jewish people to suffer again?
They shouldn't suffer. They should say he's.
Well, Hitler was doing the same thing.
No, excuse me. Right, Hitler was using violence.
And where did that violence come from?
Where
did the intellect?
Batons
Every act of violence, every Nazism was an ideology. Every ideology has an intellectual impetus. Do you agree?
I appreciate that. Yes.
Intellectual impetus is provided by philosophers, thinkers, or speakers, right? In that case, in Germany, the Jewish people were heavily demonized, and by extension, consequently dehumanized, and that led to the Holocaust.
Yes, but you're
wait. I'm making a point. Why do we have freedom of speech laws, and why do we have hate speech laws? Why do we have them? We have them in every single human society. Why?
We don't have them in America.
Hate speech laws?
No,
okay. Seriously?
There's only incitement to violence. Right?
Which is hate speech.
Well, it's not. It's incitement to a very specific type of hate speech.
Okay.
If I say to you,
so there's no absolute
let's go and kill these people, yes, then before you do it, I can stop you and say you're breaking the law.
What's your name?
But if Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Yeah. What's your name?
Thank you.
What's your name?
Is the Adnan. Is there a society on the planet today where you have absolute freedom of speech, where you can open your mouth and say what you want?
Close. Yeah, America, you can close.
No.
Legally, yes, you can.
That's not true.
It's called the First Amendment.
Okay. Can you stand in America?
Yes.
And start. Let's say you start inciting people to join a terrorist group. Can you do that in America? Listen, you're not inciting hatred. What you're saying is there is a group somewhere, go and join it. Should that be illegal?
No.
Why not? You're causing people to join a terrorist group.
They want to join a terrorist group. They should go and join a terrorist group.
No. You are an anarchist. You're not
I'm not an anarchist.
You are an anarchist.
I'll tell you what, I'm an optimist.
You believe in...
I'm an optimist, and I believe that if someone comes to Speaker's Corner here and says you're a dirty, disgusting Jew and we should kill you, I'll have a conversation with him. I'm not scared of him.
No, that's very disgusting. That's indecent behavior. Anyone saying that to Jews...
I'm not afraid. It's just words. I don't care.
We don't. You see, this is why I believe in God. I'm thankful. I'm very grateful to God that I believe in God. You know why? I don't think like that. I don't think like that. I'm not enough. I wouldn't like to insult people. My God doesn't allow me to insult people.
I don't like it. I just don't think it should be illegal.
It's more civilized. My belief is more civilized.
No, it's not.
You just said
using violence. Here's the thing. Your system, yes, is extremely easy to misinterpret. So
No,
what
it's
you can,
not.
yes, it is. Well, in Pakistan,
Give me an example.
Okay,
Give me an example.
Let's suppose, for example, I live in Pakistan, right? And I read the Quran,
Yes.
and I go online and I discover that my understanding of
Is wrong.
of Muhammad, right?
Is wrong, yeah.
Let's say it's wrong, but my misunderstanding of Muhammad, right, is that his relationship with a woman, she was very young and it was child molestation. I believe that about
Okay.
Muhammad, which is an insult
Okay.
to Muslims.
Then you need education.
Right? Fine. But let's suppose I need education.
Then you're illiterate and you're ignorant.
No,
you need education.
But I should not be punished for being ignorant.
Yes, no, you should not be.
No,
and
which
who
is what
told-
happens in Pakistan.
No, you have a. We're sorry, we're having a discussion. If you don't mind, thank you. That's not how it happens. If that happens, the first clause in the law is you reason with people, you sit them down, you give them books, you educate them about human societies, about human history, that back in the day, as late as the 19th century, the age of consent was very low, very low. In Britain, the age of consent was 7. You could marry a 7 years old by law, legally, according to the commentaries of William Blackstone. Commentaries on the English law, William Blackstone.
Yeah, so we child molestation in the UK too.
Yes,
But the difference is that the UK law is not held up as divine law from God through the prophet.
You said child.
So it's different. It's a different standard.
Can you be slightly decent and let us talk? Thank you. Thank you.
So it's a different standard.
Because you're heckling. There's no purpose.
Islam makes certain claims about its books and about its ideas and about its hero Muhammad, right? So
What you call-
and wait, and also Islam says that Muhammad's example is forever. It's not like just in the 7th century. It actually applies to the 21st century.
Yes, it
so
does.
it's a different standard. The British law was the old law was
It has been outdated.
and we've grown up and we've progressed, and that law was discussed.
You have made a
by
very
today's
good point.
standards.
You have made a very good point. Muhammad is a model for Muslims forever until the day of judgment, and Muslims ought to follow him to the best of their ability. Now, how do we follow him when he was riding camels? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. When he was riding camels to Mecca. Now Muslims, you should all ride camels to Mecca, right? How would that sound? That would sound stupid, right? Muhammad's dynamics were different to our dynamics today. Their social values are different. Their norms are different.
Right.
In those days, people traveled by camels. They were using arrows and bows and spears and swords in war. We don't use that anymore. We drive cars. They never had that concept. They were getting married. Let me finish. They were getting married to younger women. Okay, we don't do that today. Why? Because dynamics have changed. Now, it is the same Muhammad who taught us to be wary of the social realities you live in.
Right.
Don't break the norms of the people. Don't impose your ways on them, right? If it is not obligatory in Islam, something you have to do, do not practice it if it's not necessary in a society. For example, it is Prophet Muhammad who told us these things, that if something is not obligatory in Islam, you can abandon it to live in a society where that's not the norm, right? Today it's not the norm to ride camels. Today it's not the norm to get married to that younger women. Okay, women of that young age. People used to do it in the past and they had no problem with it. Today we don't do that because that's not the norm. Norms have changed, dynamics have changed. It is our Prophet who taught us to not do that.
Let me ask you
in this current day and age.
Do you have kids? Do you have children?
Yes.
Okay. If your child comes home, says, Dad, I've read the Quran and I've thought about it and I decided that I respect your beliefs, right? But I want to be a good human being, but I don't believe Muhammad was a prophet. I think God is a big mystery, and I just want to live my life as a secular person.
Okay.
Right? How would you feel about that?
I would be very sad.
Right.
I would be absolutely devastated.
Okay.
At the same time, I would sit my child down and reason with my child even for 10 years.
Okay.
Even if I had to reason with my child for 10 years, I have a case with me right now. There is a father, Pakistani father, from a very conservative society called the Pashtuns.
Yeah.
You know the Pathans? Very conservative people. His son has problems. He's left the path.
Right.
He's absolutely left the path. He contacted me. He said, I have been trying to reason with my son for a very long time.
Right.
I said to him, what advice did I give him? Continue with love and compassion.
Right.
Be generous. Do not let your child feel that you hate that child because of the decision he's made or she has made. Continue with love and compassion. And I asked him to bring your child to me, and we will sit down and have an intelligent discussion and see how we can solve this problem. So we don't believe in, okay? We don't believe in that. We don't believe in that. And people who try to put this out there that the Muslims are vicious barbarians and they believe in an uncivilized way of life that always dictates, implement the punishment on the spot. You become the judge, the jury, and the executioner. This is by the Islamic law haram, what we call prohibited.
Forbidden, yeah.
Prohibited. It's forbidden.
Haram.
You cannot take the law in your hands in any society. In any society, wherever the Muslims may be.
Let me ask you
That's
this.
why we are against terrorism.
That's
why we are against terrorism.
I read the Quran
Yeah.
in English, because I don't speak Arabic.
Yeah.
And this is one of the impressions I got from the Quran.
Yeah.
Right? It seemed to suggest that if I'm a non-believer, whatever that means, right? If I'm a non-believer, I'm going to be punished.
Right.
Like that my non-belief is a choice, which I don't think it is. I think believing is just you're either lucky or unlucky enough to believe.
Right.
Right. And number two, like, it's a terrible thing if you don't believe. Even if you behave in the most amazing way, you're very kind, generous, but you have doubts, you don't believe.
Yeah.
It seems to me from reading the Quran, and I may have misread it, so I'm asking you, that you're condemned as a non-believer. What do you think about that?
Non-belief,
misunderstanding of
that's a
mine?
misunderstanding
Okay, so
of
what
yours,
does it really
because
mean?
I will always talk with references.
Okay.
When you will bring a question, it's a valid question, it's an intelligent question, and many people have this question. I will respond it directly from the Quran. Chapter 60 of the Quran, verse 8, clearly states that those non-believers who do not fight you for your faith and do not drive you out of your homes, God does not forbid you from being kind to them. We the Muslims have been commanded by God to be kind to non-Muslims directly.
I'm not talking about non-Muslims, I'm talking about Muslims who decide that it's not for them.
Right.
Forget about non-Muslims for a minute.
Okay. There is no problem.
Right.
If a Muslim decides that he doesn't want to believe in Islam, or there is no problem. Unless that person comes out in public and encourages others to do the same. When it becomes public, it's a different matter altogether.
Right.
Because it's a social faith. Islam is a social faith. Again, it comes back to freedom of speech laws. Okay, there are certain things you can say in societies, and there are certain things.
Why do you care? If you're so
You may disagree with that.
If you're so sure about your faith,
Yeah.
not you personally, but if religious people are so sure about their faith, and I come out and I say, look, not only do I doubt the faith, I want to be secular, but I'd like whoever else
we have
wants to
no
come
problem
and
with that.
join me. Why are you so afraid of?
No,
Let me you live your life, and I'll live my life with my friends, and we'll have a discussion.
No problem with that.
We'll go with you.
I made it very clear.
Come with me.
I made it very clear. We have no
laws
problem
against it and violence.
I have no problem. I have made it very clear. We as Muslims have no problem with people being secular. They want to drink, including Muslims.
Right.
They want to drink. They want to have sex on the beach. They want to have orgies and wild parties and sniff cocaine. By all means, go and do it. It's your life.
Right.
Okay, but don't encourage others to do it, because that's when the law comes in. You cannot encourage others. You wanna live your life. You wanna go to Brazil, have the party on the beach, go and do it. We have no problem with that. It's your life. We as Muslims, let me clarify very quickly. We as Muslims, as a community, global community,